he has 25 at bats against left-hand pitching. He has 6 homers. Like I keep watching lefties try to get him out. Like just walk him. I get it. The Yankees have a nice long lineup. It's really impressive post Soto that they've produced a nice long lineup, but they have Babe Ruth in the middle of the lineup right now from the right side. And if you could avoid him, it's a minefield. You've got to avoid him. It's a Hall of Famer playing at his best. John, we're joined this week by the president of baseball operations of the team with the best record in the American League. It's Scott Harris of the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, terrific guest, if I do say so myself. Scott Harris is one of the best up and coming. I shouldn't even say up and coming. His third year with the Tigers. They're doing fantastic. They are, in my mind, right now, the best team in the American League. Sorry, Yankee fans. So it'll be a pleasure to interview Scott Harris today.
Yeah, we'll ask him about where his team stands as far as now towards the trade deadline. Tarik Skubal's coming up on a contract year. We'll ask him about that, I'm sure. Gleyber, Torres, Javy Baez. John and I are going to talk about Aaron Judge and just how hot he is. We'll play hit and error at the end if you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. You know, John, at some point I think we're going to do the show and Aaron Judge will be in a slump. And we won't be talking about a guy. I mean, he has a 3.5 WAR. It's not Memorial Day yet. I could highlight so many numbers, but he has 25 at bats against left-hand pitching. He has 6 homers. I keep watching lefties try to get him out. Like just walk him. I get it. The Yankees have a nice long lineup. It's really impressive post Soto that they've produced a nice long lineup, but they have Babe Ruth in the middle of the lineup right now from the right side. And if you could avoid him, it's a minefield. You've got to avoid him. It's a Hall of Famer playing at his best.
It's amazing. It really is. I mean, we knew he was a slugger and his batting average was always good. But I mean, to go from 267 to 322, now he's at 409. I mean, the trend is incredible. I keep asking people, can he hit 400? And everybody poo-poos it. Nobody thinks anybody can hit 400. I mean, who knows? But it's amazing that he's at 400 at this point and leads the league in everything. These guys who are 50 plus, and in his case, 60 plus in one year, home run hitters are generally, since Babe Ruth, generally guys who hit 260, 270, not 360, certainly not 400. It's an amazing season. He's getting help, obviously. The Yankees offense has been the best in the league, at least, probably the best in baseball. Rice has been good. Goldschmidt's been good. Grisham's been shockingly good. But, I mean, this guy is on a level by himself in the entire league, well above Ohtani and Soto and Alonso and everybody else, Freeman. It's amazing. It really is.
You know, John, the thing is, even just for 6+ weeks of a season to hit over 400 is amazing because we know it isn't like this guy's using his legs to beat out an infield. No. Like the ball has to land. And the one thing I would say about the potential for a very high batting average, 400 is really something, is at some point he's just going to get so many walks that like the number of total at bats will be less to get hits within. And I will do a mea culpa here. Like at the end of last season, though Judge's numbers were better than Soto's numbers, I thought Soto was the better hitter because I thought Soto could hit lefties, he could hit righties, he was so good in the clutch. Like there was no type of pitcher where I said, oh, that pitcher has an advantage over Juan Soto. I think I might have been wrong. The missing piece is Soto has now also in multiple postseasons hit great, and we haven't seen that from Judge. It's the last kind of huge step for Judge to kind of fill in that blank. But I think if there was a big at bat in the game, I used to say I would go to Soto. And I'm not sure that that's the right answer anymore.
Well, Soto himself said that Judge is the best hitter in the game, and I don't think he was just blowing smoke. I generally conceded, and there are a lot of great hitters. I mean, Freddie Freeman is a great hitter. Ohtani, Soto, these are all great hitters. There's a dozen of really what I would consider truly great hitters, but he's on a level by himself at this point, looking at all of his stats. And you're right. I mean, he doesn't have superstars behind him. He's got, if it's Goldschmidt, a very good hitter. He's batting around 300, 350 as we do this. But you know, at some point, I think at some point people are going to start walking him. They haven't done it like they used to do with Barry Bonds, but you're absolutely right. It's amazing what he's doing. The damage, the 257 OPS plus, that'd be the highest ever non-steroid since integration in baseball. That's a lot of hitters. I know I'm giving a few disclaimers here, but still decades and decades of hitters who have
You
not
could include them
accomplished.
all, and it's going to be great. It might not be the best, but it's going to be. I mean, we're
Right. I mean,
watching it.
Barry Bonds
Yeah.
got there a little bit above, but I mean, obviously, we know he had a little bit of help. Judge is, and this is a guy, let's not forget, he struck out half his at bats his first season with the Yankee. Half. Hit 84 at bats. He had 42 strikeouts. So this is a guy who's worked at it and turned himself. I understand he was a first round pick, but there was some questions. Obviously we knew he had they knew he had power. They did not know that he could hit like this. Nobody did. And he's turned himself into not only the best hitter in baseball, by far the best hitter in baseball.
Sometimes I think it could get lost because when it's happening in your lifetime, you tend to not maybe recognize like we're watching a version of Ruth. I mean, it is just much better than everybody else. It's fearsome when it happens. John, we'll I'm sure hit more of this as the week goes along and we get closer to the first Subway Series of the year. But I do think there is like the point to be made that the Yankees the Mets are better off with Soto, and the Yankees, if this is what Hal Steinbrenner, I hate to say a team without Juan Soto is better because he's Juan Soto. And we're starting to now see with the Mets what that means. But if this was going to be their payroll and you could only have Soto or Fried and then Fried with everyone else they got, I think this is the better version, especially if like Trent Grisham is going to hit like 85% of Juan Soto, as like where we're going to say like, oh, it's the Juan Soto and Trent Grisham trade. Like he ultimately ended up helping them just as a way to kind of like move into the Mets here. I do think that like we've played a quarter of a season. I think Fried and Judge are the Cy Young and AL
Yeah.
MVP. It really has worked for the Yankees, and I do think it also is working for the Mets.
Yeah, two different ways. I mean, the Yankees, you could call it top heavy, whatever you want to say. Right, they have the best player and the best pitcher in the league, and they have other guys that are supporting them. They do have some obvious weaknesses. The Mets look strong both ways. Right now, they're top five hitting. They're certainly at the top in the pitching, and that's really the stunning thing. I was there last night as we do this. And I mean, Canning has been terrific. 2.36 ERA for him. McGill's been great. I know Senga said he's been a little bit lucky. He's still been really good. They're doing an amazing job from a pitching standpoint. I still think they have a little more in it as far as hitting. I think Alvarez can do more. I mean, he's back now. McNeil is back now. Vientos hasn't done what he did last year. Nimmo has been a little bit of a slump. And Soto has not done what he did with the Yankees. So there's more in it in terms of offense. And if you're looking at the full roster, the Mets look deeper and more slump proof than the Yankees. They're both good teams. The Mets look like the better team. Of course, they're in the National League, which, as we've mentioned on this show many times, is the better league. But right now, the Mets look really good.
Yeah, I think that the distinguishing point between the two teams, and I wonder what you think, John, is the Mets have starting pitching depth. They're going right now without Montez and Minaya, who I think they will both get back in the coming weeks. But to your point, they're using six starters right now. They're all pitching very, very well. So they have real depth there. And I still think like Ryan Yarbrough has done a terrific short-term Cody Petit-like job for them to fill in. Will Warren was better. His last start, we'll see if that continues. But to me, the Yankee starting pitching depth is just far different. Like we're sitting here today, I think probably expect both New York teams to be good, which means to be active in July. The Yankees must, capital M, get a starting pitcher. They'll be lucky if it's just one they have to get between now and then.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looked a little bit better. Schmidt has looked better. Let Star Warren, as you mentioned, looked better. They should get healed back. So they're not going to be in terrible shape, but I'm with you. They're going to need to go look for a starting pitcher. And there aren't obvious guys out there right now. There's a group of guys on teams that are like on the bubble, whether it be St. Louis or Toronto, Minnesota. We don't know what they're going to do. Alcantara was the obvious guy who's going to be out there. He has not performed to this point. Maybe he will start to. There's certainly time. I mean, we're still a couple months ahead of when the trades actually happen. But I'm with you. They're probably going to need a starting pitcher. But there is some help on the horizon with Heel, and it does feel like Schmidt is looking better lately.
John, you hit something. And probably shows some provincialism by me. When the Cardinals and Twins went on these little positive runs recently, the first thing I thought was, "Oh, that's going to hurt the trade deadline." Like
Yeah,
if they're actually going to be in it. So that
right.
it stood out to me. One team that we know is certainly in it. They finished last year great. They've got the best record in the American League. That's the Detroit Tigers. Their president of baseball operations, Scott Harris, joins us next on the show. John and I are very happy to be joined by the president of baseball operations of the Detroit Tigers, Scott Harris. What we should say, the first place in the AL Central, Detroit Tigers, and the best record in the American League, Detroit Tigers. So, Scott, thank you for joining us on the show.
Of course, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Scott, last year you make this great run post trade deadline. You trade Jack Flaherty and you make a great run. And I just want to highlight that since July 5th of last year, so you're 73 and 43. That's not a small period of time. That's the best record in Major League Baseball. When did you know that this wasn't just, hey, we had a good run to end the season, that there was more to it substance wise than that?
Um, I don't think there was a specific day where we decided like, hey, we've made it. Like we don't really talk like that in this organization. It's still baseball. This game is really, really hard. The moment you think you have it all figured out and you've made it is the moment where it's about to humble you. So we are conscious of that every day. I think one thing that I think about last year is the team that we had in the second half of last year was not the same team that we started with. There's a youth movement that is sweeping through this organization. We are building through development. We are giving young players opportunity. And I think if I put myself in my headspace before last year, it was like, hey, we're going to give a lot of opportunity to young players. And these are talented young players who have a chance to really help us take the next step as an organization. And I think once we got through the trade deadline, especially when we traded a few veteran pieces, but were able to backfill with some young talented players who had earned opportunity, we felt like it was starting to change there. We took off and then we headed into the winter expecting to have a good team this year. And we're very pleased with the start that we've had.
Thanks for joining us. You have the best record in the American League. You have the second best run differential in baseball. So obviously you're doing great. You were, I think, I don't want to say is the fashionable pick. You say you did expect to have a good team. Did you expect to be this good? I know everybody's got analytics now predicting. Where did you think this team stood going into the season?
We thought we were going to have a really good pitching staff. We felt really good about it, the depth and the ceiling that this pitching staff had going into the year. We're really young positionally. I think we have the fourth youngest position player group in baseball right now, and we don't even have our full group right now. Like we're still down three center fielders, we're still down a catcher, we're still down two starting pitchers and a handful of bullpen arms. But I've been really pleased with the mentality of this group. This group approaches life on a series by series basis. We don't get caught up in noise. We don't read a whole lot of what's going on. We just try to focus on, hey, how do we win the current series? I think right now we've won 9 series and we've lost 4 of them. And the mentality coming to the park today is just how do we beat the Red Sox? How do we make sure that we have won 10 series and still only lost 4 moving forward? I expected us to be really competitive. I expected us to be really difficult to face because we showed that over extended stretch in the second half last year. And I expected us to be really competitive in the AL Central this year. And fortunately, we put ourselves in a position to hopefully have a good summer.
Yeah, just to highlight the non-fluke of it all. If you look, you're fourth in runs per game scored, you're fourth in runs against pitching wise. Your rotation ERA is sixth, bullpen ERA fourth, defensive efficiency eighth, 30 ERA. Like this is a good baseball team in maybe a really good division. Again, last year it felt like this division was floated up some by everyone beat up the White Sox and got to 80 something by doing that. Do you sense that you're in that you and the division have graduated to something better right now?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the narrative of, having a weaker team in our division and maybe that, buoys our performance and everybody else. But this division had three of the four teams in the ALDS last year. This team had three playoff teams, and we beat the Astros in the first round. The Royals beat the Orioles in the first round. It's a good division. There are some really talented players. There are some of the best players in baseball in this division, and there is really competitive baseball every night in this division. So I don't really get caught up in how people view the division strengths. It just doesn't really matter to us. We're just trying to play the most competitive brand of baseball that we can right now. And we're confident if we keep playing this style of baseball, we're going to be fine. We're also confident that it's going to be a difficult road for us because there's some really good teams in this division. There's some really talented players, and there's some really talented front offices who have built some really good rosters. So we expect it to be competitive. I don't really care too much about how people think about the AL Central right now. We just know that it's going to be a hard road for us to win it.
Javy Baez, he was really good as a Met, briefly a Met, and he was very good as a Cub. The last couple of years, he looked like he was on the way to being released. It's obviously been salvaged. He looks fantastic in center field. How did that come about? Was that out of necessity, or somebody just say, this guy's a great athlete, maybe he'll be great in center, and maybe we can resuscitate him as a viable and or even very good major league player?
Um, I would say, he has always been shagging and batting practice, even back to when I was with the Cubs. I was there when we called him up for the first time in Colorado. And he's just always been a gifted athlete with elite baseball instincts. So I remember talking to Joe Madden when we were both in Chicago about like, hey, this guy would be a pretty good center fielder if we ever needed to throw him out there. We never actually did do it. Um, but from my standpoint, like the best version of Javi is the one that's playing free and loose and finding ways to contribute in all facets of the game. I think right now there are a couple things that have changed with him. First he got hip surgery this offseason. He's also made some pre-pitch adjustments in the box. He's gotten a little bit more closed. He's dropped his hands. I think all of that is contributing to helping him move a little bit better in the box. And then defensively, we lost three center fielders in spring training. Like I've never seen a specific position get hit harder in spring training with an organization I was in than center field with the Tigers this year. So we had to think of anything. We had to be really creative. And from the moment we threw him out there, we thought, hey, like this guy's getting really good jumps, really good reads. His route efficiency is really high. This guy can really play the position. Um, and I also think it allows him to play a little bit freer, a little bit, more loose. He doesn't have to be the guy for us anymore. When he was signed here, I think he expected that he had to be the guy here. He doesn't have to be the guy for us. He just needs to find ways to contribute in the box, in the field, on the base pass, even just by a tag or something like that. And he can do it. One moment has really stuck out to me this year. And, we were in Anaheim and he climbed the wall to rob, ironically, his former teammate and Jorge Soler with a home run in right center field. And I've just seen so many talented outfielders, I'm sure you guys have too, who can't complete that play. They either, mistime the jump or they get a little tentative at the wall or they just, can't come down with it or the ball squirts out of their glove. He did it like he has done it 1,000 times in the big leagues. And it just speaks to his athleticism, his instincts, and just the body control that it takes to be able to do that. I was just really impressed by it.
So you mentioned that he doesn't have to be the man anymore. From a distance, it would seem that Tarik Skubal is the man. You could make a case he's the best pitcher in Major League Baseball right now, the defending AL Cy Young winner. Look, it's hard to ignore. I know you're playing the Red Sox. You're keeping the issue small. He's a free agent after 2027. What's the road to keeping him a Tiger for a long period of time? Is it
Uh,
possible?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand the question. I understand why you have to ask the question. It makes sense. He's actually a free agent after 2026. So we we publicly have not talked about extensions with any of our players. We prefer to go the route of keeping it behind closed doors. We don't think it's fair to the player or the organizations to or the organization to comment on it publicly. Ideally, we just keep it behind closed doors and we announce an extension and are ready to talk through every detail of it in the same way that we did with Colt Keith. We kept it behind closed doors for the entire time that we were negotiating it, and then we were out front talking about it when we got it done. We plan to approach every extension like that. My hope is that we have press conferences. We are talking at length about these things, but I think it's a little premature and probably a little unfair for us to talk about it publicly before we have reached any deals with any of our players.
There is a difference, right, between Colt Keith and Tarik Skubal, right? Like nobody was like, oh, I wonder when they're getting the Colt Keith extension done, right? Like Tarik Skubal is the best pitcher in the world. So I wonder if I could rephrase it is, do you feel you have the will, which the big part of it is the financial capability and will to do it as an organization?
Yeah, listen, I understand the question. It is not a unilateral, you know, initiative for us. We can't just decide we're going to sign them. It takes two parties. It takes some understanding of the parameters of a deal, and it takes a willingness on both sides to actually do it. Tarik is a huge part of what we're doing. He's a huge part of what happens on the field every 5 days, and he's a huge part of what happens the other 4 days because he's such a positive influence on our other players, especially our young pitchers. Like his superpower is not that he's left-handed and throws 100. His superpower is that he has the work ethic, the curiosity, and the attention to detail to continue to get better. I mean, he had a spectacular start for us against the Rangers on Friday night. He came in Saturday morning and he was just focused on one of his pitches and how he continues to improve it. Like that is the superpower for him. So from a makeup character performance, every trait you're looking for, like he has it all. Like he's a big part of what we're doing. And if we can find a way to keep him, we're gonna try to find a way to keep him. But I just can't really talk about like the details of a possible extension before it's actually finalized.
By the way, we're with you on our love for Tarik Skubal. He, as a friend of the show, came on and he is a very bright and focused young man. So we're with you 100% on the opinion you have for Tarik Skubal. I want to ask you about two other guys, unlike Skubal, who was a ninth round pick, were 1-1. They were picked first overall, Mize and Torkelson. I mean, they look like, frankly, potential disappointments coming into the year, and they've both been outstanding. How did they turn the corner? How is Mize? I think is got a little bit of an issue now. How is he doing? He's got 6 wins to lead the league. Torkelson, I think he's got 10 home runs or something close to that. So they're both, showing the reason why they were picked 1-1. But was there concern that they weren't going to get there? And what's the key to turning the corner for them?
Yeah, I mean, two things come to mind on that. First, when I first got here, the very first time, I walked in these doors, I was very outspoken about wanting to build through development, wanting to create environments that get a little bit more out of our players. That I wanted Detroit to be a place that is known for getting more out of our players. And I think we've done a good job of building those environments. I think there are players up and down the organization that are getting better on a daily basis here. And that is key to not only the turnaround our big league team has had, but also the turnaround our farm system has had. We went from one of the worst in the game to one of the best in the game very quickly. And I think that speaks to the development that is happening through the organization. However, front offices should not take credit for individual development. Like I don't lift the weights. I don't work on my delivery. I don't work on my, pre-pitch in the box. Like Casey and Spencer did all of that work. And they came into this organization with huge burdens on their shoulders. They were 1-1 picks. They were expected to be the guy immediately. They're expected to fly through the minor leagues and be all-stars immediately. Um, when they faced adversity, they didn't run from it. They actually, faced it head on. They didn't dwell on the underperformance they've had in recent years. They both attacked this offseason wanting to make concrete changes to raise the bar for themselves and their teammates. And in Spencer's case, he hit the offseason really hard. He worked on getting a little bit more narrow in the box, feeling a little bit more athletic in the box, which allowed him to cover more shapes in the zone and also get back to him hitting the ball really hard. I mean, we've seen it immediately. We saw it in spring training and we've seen it in the beginning of this year. He's back to the type of hitter that was drafted 1-1-1. And we're really proud of him for, having the self-awareness and the determination to actually make adjustments in the box. And then with Casey, he went into the offseason focused on the secondary pitches that can complement his plus heater. He has a heater that plays really well at all parts of the zone, especially the top of the zone. And so working on commanding the split and working on the shape of the split has really, helped him, find another gear here. And then also he's been working on his slider. He has different shapes of his slider, but he's commanding it a lot better. He's commanding the strike to ball version, and he's also commanding the strike to strike version to help him get more count leverage. Those are huge adjustments that guys who aren't really expected to make adjustments because they were drafted so high, but they did, and we're really proud of them as an organization for both the self-awareness that it took to identify adjustments they can make, and then all the hard work that they put into this offseason to help us. They're a big reason why we're playing so well.
You know, Scott, I think it's about something we've talked about Javier Baez and Mize and Torkelson, which is I know we talk about patience all the time in the game, but there's such outside noise all the time to move on to next. To John's point, these were two number one overall draft picks. Baez was a talented player. Even for someone like you, does the re-rise of these players like move you to be more like tell the organization we must be patient with talent? Like at some point talent should rise because it would be easy to have given up on all three of these guys someplace and you would not have been criticized for giving up on all three of these players. And yet, one of the reasons you have the best record in the American League is these three players.
Yeah, I think it's a totally fair question. We are not patient for the sake of patience. If we don't see light at the end of the tunnel, if we don't see potential adjustments, if we don't see potential performance on the horizon, like we will give up on players. We will. However, there's a reason why I believe in development. There's a reason why we're building this organization around development, because if we identify underlying traits and skills that, maybe suggest that there's an unlock potentially on the horizon, maybe there's some latent ability somewhere, like we're going to do our best to get it out of our players. There's also an environment that exists here in Detroit where everybody's making adjustments. In the big leagues, everybody's making adjustments. In the minor leagues, everybody's making adjustments. And I think, on a human level, if you're a player and you're looking around and you're seeing all these guys make adjustments and, Parker Meadows come from, like one of the like lowest performing hitters in all of baseball in the first half last year to like a potential impact center fielder on both sides of the ball after making adjustments. It's pretty inspiring. It's an inspiring culture around here. And AJ, our manager, and all of our coaches try to create that environment consistently in the big leagues and throughout the minor leagues because we feel like these guys are freak athletes. They have latent ability. They have, underlying traits and skills, and we just need to find ways to bring it out of them. And their teammates are bringing it out of them too. So we're going to continue to believe in our players here. We're going to continue to do the work and try to find adjustments that can bring out a better version of performance out of them. And those three guys that you just mentioned are three of many examples in Detroit that are helping this organization turn around and be as healthy as it's been in a while.
Your pitching has been excellent, bullpen and starting, and the two key guys who figure out how to utilize that pitching. I'm going to ask you about Chris Fetter and AJ Hinch. And by the way, they both went to or hail from fine schools. Fetter from the University of Michigan and AJ from Stanford. And you know where I'm going with this. I've got my support on here for Northwestern. Scott is a Northwestern man as well, so I do want to point that out. What can you tell me, though, about the Michigan man Fetter and Stanford's own Hinch? We know something about Hinch, obviously, but Fetter is a little bit less known, but I think he does a terrific job by handling your pitchers.
Yeah. We wouldn't be in the place we are right now without those two guys. They bring a ton to the table. We could do the whole podcast about those two guys. I think the one thing that sticks out with both of them is they are excellent communicators and they are in our players' corners. Our players always know that those two are fighting for them. They're fighting for opportunity for them. They're fighting to, find the right adjustments for them. They're fighting to put them in positions to succeed. None of this works without the buy-in from the players, and none of it works without the trust that they have with our manager, our pitching coach, and our hitting coaches. So they do a really good job. I think our entire staff does a really good job, but there's a reason why AJ is one of the best managers in the game because he he gets the buy-in from the players and he hires really good coaches like Fed. And so I'm really proud of those guys and I'm really glad they're on our team.
Scott, you signed two free agents this offseason off of the AL champion Yankees in Gleyber Torres and Tommy Kahnle. Both are doing well. Can you drill down a little? What are you seeing from those two players? I'm actually curious. What are you seeing on the defensive side of the ball? Have become such an issue for Gleyber in New York. How's it working out there?
Yeah, so I'll take them separately. First, I'll start with Glaber. We headed into the offseason looking for a right-handed bat. We wanted to balance our lineup out. We did have some really young, talented left-handed hitters, but we needed a little bit more balance, and I thought that got exposed a little bit in the postseason. We wanted to prioritize, bat to ball skills and on-base skills. We wanted to find some power potential. It's really hard to find that package, offensively in free agency. The more we looked at Glaber, the more we thought that he fit what we're trying to do here. I've always admired his hit tool from afar. But what I found when I started talking to him is this is a highly motivated individual who believes that his best baseball is in front of him, not behind him. And he's still really young and he's out to prove something here. So I felt like adding him to the top of our lineup could do a couple things. First of all, he protects Kerry Carpenter very well in the two hole. Second, he's producing at a really high rate for us, but his underlying stuff is even better than his top line performance right now. So I think he is going to continue to get better. And even those rare nights where he, doesn't really fill out the box score, he's really helping our lineup because he's grinding out at bats. He's seeing a ton of pitches. He's wearing down starters and he's helping our young hitters find the right approach against starters that maybe he's faced a handful of times and they've never faced before. So he's been a huge addition for us. Defensively, we added him to our team, and it wasn't one of the more obvious moves for us because we already had a second baseman in Colt Keith, and we already had a first baseman in Spencer Torkelson. But the more we looked at the configuration of our roster, we thought to ourselves, like, hey, if all three of these guys are hitting, there's two things are going to happen. One, we're going to be able to, put out a better lineup. And two, we're going to be able to cycle these guys through the DH spot to keep their legs fresh without losing their bats in our lineup. And that's what's happened so far. Those three have been rotating. Glaber's played the majority of second base, but Colt has played some second base. Colt has played some first base, and then Torque has played some first base and DH. So it's really important for us to be able to add bats into our lineup, and the versatility of Colt allows us to do that. And then defensively with Glaber, he's been working really hard with Joey Cora. We think Joey Cora is one of the better infield guys in the game. The two things for us are positioning and execution with him. So we're trying to work on the positioning. We've been working on the execution. By and large, it's been pretty good. There have been a couple negative plays that are sinking his overall performance across a small sample, but he's making the plays we need him to make, and he's been a significant boost at the top of our lineup. I think the second guy that you talked about was Tommy Kahnle. We were really excited to add him because we knew that he could fill in as a closer for us. He could pitch in the eighth inning, or he could be an important part of the pitching chaos type approach we have to pitching because it's a different look. We're trying to build a bullpen full of different looks, full of different slots, different shapes, different attack styles. And Tommy Kahnle throws over 90% changeups right now, and they know it's coming and they still can't really hit it. And it's such a productive pitch because it does a handful of things. It misses bats. He can move it around the zone and it induces a ton of soft contact on the ground. So there's just a lot of paths to outs there and allows AJ to use him, Will Vest, Tyler Holden, all the guys, Bo Brisky, all these guys back at the end of our pen in different ways each night so that we can limit the number of times that opposing hitters are facing the same pitchers in a given series. So he's been great. Both those guys have been great, and we're really, really glad to have them both.
Last question for me. Two more high draft picks I wanted to ask you about. Obviously, one's in the majors, one's in the minors. Where do things stand right now with Max Clark? And Jackson Jobe is obviously performing for you at the major league level, but what kind of potential do you think he has?
Yeah, I'll start with Jackson. He's starting tonight for us. Everyone knows about the elite pure stuff. I've been really impressed by his ability to continue to make adjustments. I talk about adjustments all the time. He is a young player who is the best pitching prospect in baseball, and he's still making adjustments. We added a sinker to his mix this offseason. We added a curveball to his mix this offseason. He's still learning how to execute at a really high rate. in the season. I think we've seen a lot of young pitchers recently, struggle in their first taste of this level. He's still kind of working through it. There's some flashes of why he was the best pitching prospect in baseball. We think he's still starting to put it together. But he's got a really solid group of, other like impact type prospects who have figured it out in our rotation. And so we feel like he's got some good influences around him. And obviously Chris Federer has really helped him along with Robin Lund and Juan Nieves. As far as Max, Max is one of the best players in high A right now. I mean, his on base percentage is almost 500 right now. He's hitting the ball really hard. He is making excellent swing decisions at the plate, and he's impacting the game on the bases and in center field. We took him because he's a left-handed hitter with a plus hit tool who has, real on base skills, power potential, and can be a elite center fielder. We've seen all of those skills already. He's still really young. I know we've been talking about this guy for a long time, but he's still really young. He's done everything we want him to do at West Michigan, but I do think that we have to place an emphasis on reps. We have to place an emphasis on seeing different types of pitching because it only gets harder as you climb the system. And pitching's never been better than it is right now in the big league. So we are going to take our time developing all these guys, but whether it's Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, Tyron Lorenzo, Bryce Rayner, how you lead, we just have a lot of, impact position players coming. We think that the present is certainly healthy right now if you look at the standings and our record, and we think the future is even brighter in this organization because we got a lot of guys coming. So even if we do nothing at the trade deadline, even if we do nothing in free agency, we think that there are additions coming off the injured list and there are additions coming through promotions within the system. We're still going to do things, via trade and free agency, but we want to be a healthy organization that has additions coming from within steadily throughout the years. And we feel like we're in a good spot right now.
Scott, you kind of got where I wanted to go to wrap this up, which was before last season, you and I talked on the phone, and I told you, I said, am I crazy? I think I'm picking your team to win the division. And you talked about the variable of young players because I thought you had such good upside potential. Did the way you played at the end of last season into this year convince you, like, you're not at the young phase anymore? I mean, you do have obviously young players, you mentioned it, but as you head to the trade deadline, do you think of it as we're a go product? We need, while not mortgaging the future, the present has great value. We need to maybe sacrifice something because we are a good team and we should go for it hard. Are you there now?
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple things. One, no matter what our competitive situation is, like we're always gonna try to be pragmatic at the trade deadline. We don't think of like go moves versus non-go moves. We think of it in terms of like the relative strengths and weaknesses on a roster. If we have weaknesses on a roster, we're going to go address them. We expect to have weaknesses and we expect to be in a position to address them. However, right now, I don't know what our strengths and weaknesses are because we haven't even played with a full team yet. I mean, we are going to add Parker Meadows, Matt Vierling, Jake Rogers, Wenzel Perez, Alex Lang, Sawyer Gibson Long, Alex Cobb. We're going to add all these players to our team between now and the trade deadline. So there's a lot of baseball for us to play. We still have to, take care of business on the field to put ourselves in a position to add, but we also have to be evaluating what our strengths and weaknesses are at the time of the deadline. There are a lot of really competitive people in this organization, and we're going to do everything we can to try to win a World Series in Detroit. And if that means making a big move at the deadline, we're going to do it. And if that means, intentionally passing on a big move at the deadline because that move could set us back, then we're going to do that. I think it's a little premature to comment on what we will or won't do. We both have a lot of baseball to play, and we also have to see what this team looks like at full strength.
Well, Scott, I know you're not taking bows now and you recognize how long this season is, but job well done by you and AJ and everyone there. It was easy to believe that at the end of last season, they got hot. I don't think anyone thinks that anymore. I think everyone thinks that you have one of the best teams in the major leagues. You've obviously been a key architect in doing that. And so, Scott Harris, we appreciate you joining us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you all.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Go Cats.
That's good. Thank you.
John and I, of course, thank Scott Harris for joining us on the show. John, we end it with hit or error every week. What do you got?
I'm probably going to pick the most obvious error here, and that's the Rockies, who are all-time bad. just fired their manager. I think they called it relieved him of his duties. I do think it probably is a relief for Bud Black to get out of there. It's really, really ugly. The Mets held the loss record, 1962 Mets, for 62 years, and the White Sox may only hold it for 1 year if the Rockies continue on this path. I mean, it is a real, I was going to say a bad word there. I can't say it. It's a real mess in Colorado right now. I mean, all of the players that they're paying $5 million or more to, I think Danny Viette, you pronounce it right, had a tweet, and all the guys they're paying $5 million plus to, and there's a half dozen guys, they're all either injured or performing poorly. And some of them are shockers. Freeland, McMahon, I mean, guys you think are good players are not performing at all. And of course, they have other guys who you didn't expect to perform, and they look like they're in line for the record to me.
John, we got two managerial firings this week in, Derek Shelton in Pittsburgh, and as you mentioned, Bud Black in Colorado. And I'm not here to defend either guy. Like, do you want to say they're bad manager? Fine. Nobody is changing the arc of those teams unless things change from the top down. And just to focus on your one in Colorado, if you're going to be in the division with the Dodgers and this version of the Padres and this version of the Diamondbacks and a go for it version of the Giants, and you think you're just going to try to build a team in your environment in a traditional way and compete with them, it's like this, so stupid. Like, you've got to try something different. You must try something different. Like, I don't care if it's 9 power hitters who can't field, 9 guys who run around the big course field and can't hit home runs, but like, hey, everyone throws a sinker, but like, just to have no theory on all these years later how to play in your ballpark and how to survive in a division that has the Dodgers and other strong teams is a big one for me. And yet, John, I'm going to give the error this week to the Red Sox management. I saw the piling on Rafael Devers, and did Rafael Devers, in his second language through an interpreter, say some stuff that was a little inelegant, ungraceful? Sure, sure. But the Red Sox knew they were leaving this offseason with a third baseman. They knew it. If they don't sign Bregman, they were trading for Arenado. They knew it. The idea that this got to Fort Myers without them dealing with it is, to me, a big deal. And now to just kind of like have the guy in upper management, Craig Breslow, say, just go play first base, to a proud guy who doesn't probably want to, like, already feels like slighted that he's off at third base, so you didn't deal with him. He's the face of, like, he's the face of franchise. He might not be Aaron Judge, but he's the face of franchise. When the Yankees trade for Juan Soto, they certainly go to Aaron Judge and say, we're getting Juan Soto. You okay? Go to center field. And Judge, he's like, yeah, go get Juan Soto. And he was fine with it. But like, Devers is a guy you give a $300 million plus contract to. You've got to talk him through this. And at this point, why doesn't Devers just go, I don't know, Trevor Story isn't that good a shortstop anymore. Why don't you put him at first base and bring up Marcelo Meyer? Like, I have to move for Yoshida? Is this really what we're doing here? Like, I think Devers could say, like, what are we doing? Like, why is this about me? And I just think that this has been handled poorly the whole way by his bosses. I'd like the player to be more team oriented, get it, using their words, but like, you gave Devers all this money to hit, you finally put him in a position to only hit, and now you want him to do this other thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it from a slightly different angle. I mean, they know Rafael Devers. He's been there. He's been the face of their franchise. They gave him the long deal. I think they did it because they were not overly, they were properly criticized for not keeping Mookie Betts, as they obviously should have. But they should have known what this could become. I mean, they've been living with Rafael Devers. They know he's a, say, prideful guy. They should have understood that. That said, to me, he is making $300 million. Give it a shot. Albert Pujols played third, first, outfield his first year. I know that was his first year, but other guys have moved. Aaron Judge moved to center field, risking more injury last year for Juan Soto. Alex Rodriguez moved to third base, and he was the best shortstop in baseball. Devers is not a great third baseman. You signed Bregman. It should have been clearer. It should have been more obvious at that moment, I guess. I get what you're saying, but I'm of the mind that Yeah, they should have known that this was going to be an issue. But on the other hand, get on first base. If you're him, give it a shot. See what you can do. I know it's incredibly hard, difficult, right? Run
Yes.
watching this. It's not easy. I agree. Give it a shot. Do it for the team. You are making $300+ million.
You
I
saw
think he
Mickey
can try.
Cabrera move across the infield for Prince Fielder, back from
These are
first.
all comparable superstars,
Like
right?
I get it, and ultimately, I think Devers, who first balked at going to DH and said I won't do it, I think he needed a little time. I think ultimately he'll end up on first base. But John, I always come back. The adults in the room always have to be the management people, and they should have seen this tornado outside. To your point, they know the player. They should have seen this tornado outside of town before it reached town. And they've let the thing get into town and start whipping up around it. And Boston has a lot of talent and could be a playoff team this year. And to let this kind of get into your world is, to me, bad management.
Yeah, they know it's a mess at this point. To see the owner, John Henry, who isn't, he's not Steve Cohen. He's not out there in the middle of the action at all times. To fly to Kansas City to meet with Devers, they knew that this became a mess, and you certainly want to avoid a mess.
Yeah. The guy who cleans up all our messes, nice segue, Joel, is Tommy Hogan, our producer, who really, like, again, every week we talk to him and he just is able to fill in all the cracks and get us up and running every week. So, Tommy, we always thank you. Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, please rate and review us. It helps the show a great deal. Watch us on the New York Post YouTube page because you want to see John's Northwestern shirt at some point. He's always best in purple. And please continue to stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman.